Hey, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Wisdom of the Soul, brought to you by the Ageless Wisdom Mystery School. We're here every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. if you'd like to join us live, and if you're unable to do that, and by the way, that's California West Coast time. And if you're unable to do that, this class in its entirety is posted as a video on YouTube, and also the audio version available as a podcast, although we edit out the meditation and the Q&A from the audio podcast. In any event, you'll find both the YouTube channel and the audio podcast by searching Ageless Wisdom Mystery School, just those 4 words. You'll find more information about me and my private sessions at my main website, michaelbenner.com. The intake session is free and you're under no obligation to go any further. But if you need some help with anxiety disorder, career counseling, couples counseling, or you're just confused and stressed out, take advantage of the free intake session. We'll do it by phone or Zoom if you prefer. Usually just a phone call. And again, no charge, no obligation. Happy to do that for you. For some people, that's all they need. And for others, it can be the beginning of a really great one-on-one relationship. I find my private counseling and my one-on-one training very, very rewarding side of my work. We also have a couple of openings in the Saturday Salam. We're limited to 10 in that group. And if you'd like to find out more about that, just, again, go to michaelbenner.com and click on Personal Development, Training and Classes. And you'll see a little blurb in there about the Saturday Salon. And just shoot me an email. The address is in there, awmysteryschool@gmail.com, if you're interested in applying for the Saturday Salon, small private discussion group for transformation. Today we're going to go to some pretty basic information, but I think you'll find it edifying and helpful. Maybe we'll connect some dots for you here as we talk about the nature of stress. The title, actually, as I expressed in the newsletter this week, is Stress, Distress, and Dis-ease. And if you look at the word disease in a new way, it suggests that good health comes from being at ease. And in addition to distress, could there be some kind of stress that is not distressful? Yes, in fact, it's called eustress. So for most of you, here's a new word and a new concept, spelled E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S, eustress, which is good stress. It's positive stress. And we'll talk about the relationship between those two, where stress comes from. I'll tell you up front before the meditation a little about it. There is physiological stress and there is psychological stress. And guess which one is greater? And what is it really? Um, Physiological stress is just the result of doing physical work, physical labor, tiring muscles, exhausting the body, challenging it. But the psychological stress is really what we'll emphasize this morning, which is dealing with uncertainty. Stress is really a function of confusion and unawareness. I hesitate to say ignorance because it's such an insulting word, but ignorance is a good word for stress. And there are many others. I think fear. which I harp on all the time, to the dismay of many. I continually get email from people that say, stop talking about fear so much. Well, I can't, because it's at the root of all heartache. Um, Before we began class this morning, some of us here were talking about the tragic uprising of war in the Middle East. What is that all about? What is war about? What is domestic violence and argumentation? What is that all about? It's a failure to understand, to manage and control our emotional nature. And supporting all negative emotions, all hurtful emotions, is stress. Whether you call it fear or anxiety, whether it's panic and horror on the big end, or just a little bit of nervousness or mild apprehension on the low end. Well, I'm not really that stressed out, but I do have my concern. It's all the same thing. It's all stress. It's all fear. It's all anxiety, whatever its name. And it manifests in outbursts of anger and expressions of hatred and contempt, and sometimes disgust and apathy even. Apathy is a negative feeling. It often feels numb, like ambivalence, but being numb hurts. And so stress is a major component, really a supportive component at the root of everything that hurts, everything that disturbs us, everything that irritates us, all of our unhappiness. What's more stressful than being unhappy? And so that's distress. What is eustress? Let me touch on that. Eustress is the kind of stress, again, whether physical, physiological, or psychological, emotional, basically. Yeah, I suppose we could talk about mental stress, but it goes hand in hand with the emotional qualities. By the way, there is a program we did over a year ago, and maybe I will repeat soon, on the relationship between thoughts and feelings. It's an issue that's rarely discussed, the way thoughts bring up emotional feelings and vice versa. And even today in psychology, there's an argument about which is primary. I think the feelings are primary, but it's obvious that not only do feelings bring up thoughts, but the reverse is true. Thoughts stimulate feelings, and you've got a ping pong game going on here, back and forth between the two. So when we talk about stress as distress, as emotional or psychological stress, dealing with uncertainty and confusion, and whatever it is that we don't know and understand, what is eustress? Eustress is generally that modicum of anxiety that prepares us to perform even better. It's the difference between oh boy and oh no. You know, the excitement of oh boy, I can hardly wait. That's eustress, see? That's psyching up, that enthusiasm, that, excitement. That's eustress. And it's a good thing to a point. So picture a bell-shaped curve, like the curve you were graded on in school, very few A's, a few more B's, mostly C's, about as many D's as B's, and about as many F's as A's. That bell-shaped curve. Well, eustress would be the upside. So as stress increases on the eustress side, the good stress side, your performance gets better and better and better and better. Stress on the horizontal axis, performance on the vertical axis. More stress, you get better and better and better until you hit that peak. And then if the stress continues to the right on the horizontal axis of the graph, the curve rolls off and you begin to do worse. Your performance degrades. Not only your performance, we could apply the same kind of curve to your physical health. We can apply that same curve to mental clarity and to emotional equanimity. How about if I say it that way? So a little bit, oh boy, I'm psyching up. I can hardly wait. I'm looking forward to it. That's eustress. That's the upside of the curve. And then going too far, continuing at some point to add more and more stress, then your performance is degraded, your health is degraded, and your mental and emotional nature is debilitated as well. I think it's an interesting concept that is often overlooked. Not all stress is distressful. It's also my intention to point out that this is a central component of the need for meditation. I didn't say that as well as I wanted, but stress is why we meditate, to eliminate it. Because while most people, I think, when they hear about stress, they're thinking about physical performance and physical health, stress-related dis-ease. And I think most people have a sense that stress also debilitates us mentally and emotionally, but I don't think that's emphasized as much. And yet we see it everywhere, even memory. The harder you try to remember something, the worse you do. Concentration is a relaxation skill, the ability to focus your attention. And yet even teachers who should know better will say to the student who's maybe ADD or having a problem with attention and concentration, well, try harder. You just need to try harder. And that's the worst. that's the worst advice you can give someone to help them improve their concentration. If you're having attention deficit or problems with focus or concentration, you want to breathe and relax and help the brain to feel safe. And then it won't jump around looking for danger. You see, that's what that's all about. Where's the danger in this uncertainty? Oh, I don't know this. I don't understand that. I'm confused about this over here. And so the fight or flight center, the amygdala in the brain goes, well, there may be some danger hidden in those unknowns, in that confusion, in that ignorance. Don't know for sure. The point is, I don't know. And so I'm going to engage that fight or flight and the trade out for preparing for danger, the tight muscles, the adrenaline, the cortisol, the the dilated pupils, the sweaty palms, the high brain waves, did I say tight muscles, high blood pressure, high pulse, rapid respiration, shallow, rapid breathing. That helps you deal with physical danger, to prepare for the likelihood of the danger that may be hidden in what's unknown. But the trade-out is we get stupid. Stress makes us stupid. Fear makes us stupid. What are you afraid of? I don't know. Well, that's the point. You've heard me say that many times, and I'll continue to say it again. Stress, anxiety, fear, whatever term we use for it, it's not directly about danger. It's what you don't know. And even if there is clear and present danger, it's what you don't know about the danger that you're staring at. And we know that's true because the more you understand the danger, the less stressed you become, the less fearful, the less anxious, the less nervous. Even though the danger itself remains constant, understanding it helps you avoid the fear. And then you get your wits back. See, then you get smarter and more creative. And so, what is meditation but stress management? Often called stress reduction, and I don't want to pick nits here, but stress reduction to a point, you see. The reason I prefer stress management is we want to enjoy the benefits of the eustress, of the boy howdy, the the positive side of oh boy, of I'm really excited, I can't wait. The difference between stage fright and stage fever, and often they come hand in hand. If you've ever performed, public speaking or singing or dancing or playing a musical instrument or some recitation of some sort, taking a test. Uh, well, the feeling of stage fright before you get on stage, and then usually when the curtain goes up and the bright lights hit you and you start your little song and dance or your speech or whatever, and you feel that you're doing a really good job, then that stage fever, they can't get you off stage. You just absolutely love it and get hooked on it. It can be very addictive. So that's a little intro to distress and eustress and the nature of dis-ease and the idea that good health comes from being safe and relaxed, and also clarity, mental clarity and emotional equanimity are all benefits of meditation, the primary form of stress reduction. There are others, which we'll talk about in a minute, besides meditation. What are other ways that we can reduce to a point, maybe better said, manage our stress, find that balance point, the peak of that curve. But let's do our opening meditation, and then we'll talk about stress management and all the benefits of that. So if you close your eyes, become aware of the way the furniture, the chair, the bed that you're sitting on, whatever is the furniture, the pillow, the meditation bench, cross-legged on the floor, feel it supporting you. And move your awareness from your head, where it typically resides, down into your body. And notice that you have the ability to do that, to move your awareness, to move it around. And let's just think about that for a second. What does it mean to move? What is this ability that I have to move my awareness from place to place within my body? Move your awareness, for example, now to the bottom of your feet. And if you're sitting in such a way that your feet are flat on the floor, imagine grounding yourself to the earth. Imagine how a tree feels to be so deeply rooted into the earth, to know that it's connected, that it's plugged in, that it's grounded. Imagine that you have roots, like lines of electromagnetic force that reach down into the earth, like roots. Yeah, through your shoes, through the carpet, through the flooring, even if you're in the third story of a building, all the way down into the earth. That's easy to imagine. And then lift your awareness gently to the space around your heart, to your heart space. and linger in the center of your rib cage for a moment. And remind yourself how it feels to be safe and to be peaceful and to be loving. And that's a letting go feeling, isn't it? To be peaceful and loving is not an effort, but a letting go. Feel that letting go, that sense of letting go, however it occurs to you, around the heart in the center of your rib cage. Associate a gentle warmth with that letting go feeling. Allowing the warmth and the peace of love, of contentment, of safety to gently radiate out in all directions. And acknowledge to yourself silently and internally that right now you're as safe as you're willing to allow yourself to be. How safe, how peaceful, how loving can you allow yourself to be? Continue with the letting go. As if you're dropping muscular tension, as if your body armor is falling away. As if there's no need to defend yourself in any way. From physical attack, from mental insult and abuse, or from emotional betrayal or abandonment. How safe, how relaxed, how loving and peaceful. How much understanding, how much awareness are you willing to allow yourself to experience right now? Include your neck and shoulders in the letting go. Include your head by feeling in the space around your ears a gentle drooping or sagging as you relax your scalp. Your ears will sag a little bit. Across the forehead, your cheeks and your face and your jaw, feel the letting go. And consider why they carried that muscular tension in the first place. Why was your face tight? You felt it let go. Why was it tight? Why was your scalp tense? Why did that thin cap of muscle that encases the scalp carry tension? Such that when you let it go, you felt the space around your ears sag or droop a little bit. There's a place in the brain that is hardwired to believe that anything new or unknown because it's new, or old and never fully understood, could conceal some sort of danger. It's hardwiring that brought us through our evolution as primitive humans, as hunter-gatherers, through the Neolithic period to our present state of civilization. And although the dangers of nature have subsided enormously, there are new dangers. Not physiological dangers, where, unless you watch too much news, you are probably aware the world is, in fact, safer than it's ever been. People live much longer than they ever have, even 100 years ago. A long life was 45 or 50 years. What we're experiencing is stress, is what we don't understand. In two ways, what we don't understand about the world and what may happen next in the world around us. But even more importantly, self-awareness. We don't understand ourselves. And so the ultimate in stress reduction and stress management, finding the peak between oh boy and oh no, between excitement and anxiety, between eustress and distress. Best way to manage that is to know thyself, to know yourself. You know your name. You know what you do for a living. You have a sense of your station in life. You have a sense, however vague, of why people love you, why they like you, why they enjoy the way they feel when they are with you. But let's pause for a second and take a look at that. Do you really understand what's lovable about you? Why people want to spend time with you? Why they enjoy the way they feel in your presence? Reflect on that for a moment. What is that affinity? Why do you have friends? Why do people care about you? It's difficult to do an exercise like this because the ego jumps up, doesn't it? Ego wants credit for all of this. Well, it's because I'm smart. I'm good looking. I go out of my way to make people feel good, to laugh, to share and care. I work really hard at it. I'm just a likable person. Beyond that, set the ego aside. That character, those roles that you play in an attempt to please them, to garner their acceptance and their approval. Set all that aside. Go deeper. Go into the warmth. What is lovable about me? You see, as we come to understand ourselves as deeply and completely as possible or as imaginable, we give up the need to defend ourselves. There's no longer a need to defend anything. It's our defensive nature when there's conflict or an argument that is perceived as offensive and some sort of attack. And when there's conflict, for example, a domestic argument at home with a spouse or a child or a parent, it takes real clarity to step back, even after the fact, much less while it's happening. And notice that each side is defending itself, and yet the other sees it as an attack. But I'm defending myself against what you said, which is wrong and untrue and hurtful. And if we had that clarity, the other would say, no, I'm only defending myself against what you said, which was hurtful and offensive, judgmental, unkind. Our emotions, our personal responses that we believe were done to us by the other. You see, as we come to understand ourselves better, there's no stress. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to defend and no reason to be defensive because you get a calm, quiet confidence that goes way beyond the ego. The ego will defend itself. Your true nature knows there's nothing to defend. Yeah, I'm human. I make mistakes sometimes. Gosh, when I said that, it didn't really come out quite right. Gee, I guess I could have said that better. I'm sorry. I did really, if I hurt you, I assure you that was not my intention. These things get much easier to do when you know the truth of who you are. And you can live free from stress. Your performance improves in all aspects. Your health improves. You live longer. Plus, you're happier emotionally, happier, more content, more confident. You have self-love, self-respect, self-trust, self-regard, healthy self-image, free from ego, to a large degree anyway. Aware enough to know when ego asserts itself, and you can back off, set it aside. And mentally, you are much more lucid, can see things clearly and deeply, understand more completely yourself, others, and the world around you, in that order. When you're free from the stress that comes from not understanding yourself. Who am I really? Beyond the clothes I wear, beyond the body, my ethnicity, the color of my skin, my religion, my belief systems, beyond my thoughts and my attitudes, beyond my emotional nature, the rising and falling of thoughts and feelings, beyond all of that is awareness. I am that. I am. I am awareness. And sometimes I am aware that I am awareness, but often I forget and think I'm my ego, or I think I'm my body, or the way I speak, or my career, or how much money I have. Gosh, I get confused often. Get drawn out into that world of form. My values get all messed up. I get stressed. Breathe. Do that now. Take a nice, slow, deep breath, and as you exhale, feel letting go. Then do it a second time. Take your time, slowly. Nice, big, deep breath, inhaling through the nose. Hold for just a beat as you peak, and as you exhale now, slowly. Feel an even deeper letting go. And feel the deep and profound safety that comes from realizing you are awareness, also known as consciousness, also known as love. Not the emotion of love, but love in a spiritual sense, which is consciousness, awareness. Awareness of harmony, awareness of unity, aware that there is nothing other than the one life, and therefore nothing to fear, as we realize all is one. You carry that awareness with you out into the world as you open your eyes. And that awareness includes the understanding that most people are not that aware. And they believe they are separate. And they invest in conflict and otherness and disharmony and distress and dis-ease. Have some compassion for their suffering, for they know not what they do. They're just frightened. They're just stressed out. They're just confused. They don't know who they are. And the best thing we can do for them is to understand who we are. the peace and the tranquility, the love and the harmony that needs no defense, because there's nothing to defend. Reorient yourself toward the waking state with the intention to open your eyes in just a few moments. Gently gather up what you have come to realize in the last few minutes. You don't have to carry that or remember it if you realize that you have become it. It's part of you. You've realized it once. There's nothing to remember. You understand it that deeply. It'll be easy to embody and express this wisdom. Take a slow, deep breath, inhaling. Fill your lungs and hold for a moment as you peak. And as you exhale, open your eyes, wide awake, back in the room. Eyes open now, wide awake, feeling fine. Rested and refreshed and back in the room with a full memory and a profound understanding of what it means to have no stress, no fear, no anxiety. Uncertainty can be a wonderful thing. Uncertainty can be a lot of fun. I mean, there's adventure in uncertainty. There's excitement and enthusiasm and, oh boy, that's the way we need to face uncertainty. Instead of this fear of loss, or it all comes out of this illusion of separation. It's understandable. We're in separate bodies in a world where everything is separated and nothing is permanent. Everything's in decay and, breaking and decaying and rotting and corroding. And God, it's frustrating. I understand that. But we can, with a good meditation practice, that's why you got to do it every day. Ideally early in the day, and then it carries over. And give yourself some kudos, the little self-congratulatory pat on the back for even coming to a class like this. Do you know how rare it is? You know how few people are interested in this? I think you, I think you probably do. I've been resigned to it for a long, long time. This is not like when I wrote my book, Fearless Intelligence. I had never even thought about, oh, I hope I sell a lot of copies, make a little bit of money. It's not, this is, people don't want to know who they are. They're terrified to know who they are. They'd rather judge other people and control other people. But if instead you devote yourself to understanding yourself, you don't need to do all of that. You don't need to judge other people. You don't need to control other people. They don't have the power to intimidate you or abuse you. You just look at them with your head cocked a little bit and go, wow, I wonder what their issue is. But you're bulletproof. It's just, oh, you'll take an initial hit. I sometimes think if somebody walked up to Jesus and said something nasty about his mother, he'd probably get upset for a second or two, and his nostrils would flare. Maybe his hands would tighten into fists for just a minute, and then he'd say to himself, wait a minute, I'm Jesus. I can't fight back. After he overturned the tables of the moneylenders in the temple, I wonder if he thought later in the day, gosh, I could have handled that a little better. I hope they don't put that story in the Bible. We all have an emotional nature, and it's about survival. And a lot of the impulses come from our animal nature. You know, we are spiritual beings in animal bodies, so if you feel animal impulses, and you do, and you will, and I do, and let's identify them for what they are. It's understandable. This is temptation. This is what religion tells you makes you a sinner. This is what evil is. You know, that little guy in the red outfit with the pitchfork that rules over hell and tempts you. It's the story of Jesus being tempted, and Jesus says, "Get thee behind me, Satan." What is that? That's your animal nature. That's self-centeredness. That's I want what I want because I want it now. And I don't care about how it impacts other people. That's evil. And what is it? It's ignorance and fear. Oh my God, could it be that simple? Is all evil nothing but ignorance and fear and stress? Yeah, that's all it is. And what's the antidote? Well, love. Why is love the antidote to evil? Because evil is ignorance and love is understanding. It's awareness. It's consciousness. So how does love drive out evil? The same way understanding eliminates ignorance. The same way light eliminates the darkness by virtue of what it is. Darkness is not a force, it's the absence of light. So there's no struggle. The light vanquishes the darkness by virtue of what it is. So it is with goodness and understanding. Not a struggle, a tug of war, as is often represented, good versus evil. Any war is evil versus evil. And there are good intentions, perhaps, on both sides, but to resort to the violence, to resort to the war, I feel that same way about politics. Maybe you do too, or I'll bet you can, even if you haven't thought it through, understand me if I say that I don't care what your political views are. You know, I'm a big advocate for free speech and free thinking and all the way out to the extremes. But where you cross the line is where you become violent. And that's the red line. That's where the evil begins, so to speak. That's where the ignorance begins. The idea that war would solve something. Well, Michael, didn't World War II eliminate Hitler? Yeah. And Mussolini? Yeah. And the Japanese conquest of the world? Yeah. But the mentality behind it is extant. We still have fascism. We still have the Klan. We still have white nationalists. We still have white people who think they're superior to others. That war didn't eliminate that. So the root cause is still there. I remember in the Vietnam War, not to go too far afield here, but I thought it was a major, significant point when the Pentagon in America started talking about winning the hearts and minds of the Vietnamese people. It was like this revelation that just killing people is not going to convince them that we're the good guys. right? You bomb our villages, you kill our women and children. Okay, we get it. You're the good guys. That doesn't that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So winning the hearts and minds, maybe you should stop bombing people, napalming their children. Might have a better chance of winning their hearts and minds. War doesn't win the hearts and minds of people. Yeah, violence, that's the beginning of evil. That's where it crosses over. Otherwise, it's just ignorance and confusion. And so love is understanding. Now you know what love means. Eastern religions talk about consciousness and awareness. Western religions, the Abrahamic monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, they never talk about consciousness. They don't use that word or awareness. They use the word love. That's what love means in Western religion. Consciousness, awareness. Aware of what? That there's really only one of us here. That we're all emanations of a single source. Perhaps the word God, Allah, Krishna, Brahma, the absolute, whatever, prime mover, is just a religious word for capital A, awareness, or capital C, consciousness, or capital L, love. When you understand that love in a religious or philosophical sense is consciousness, which means awareness, which is knowing or understanding, all kinds of things are going to come together for you. Let's talk about stress in a more practical, down-to-earth way. I've already said that it's my belief that meditation is, or contemplation, some closed-eye, deep relaxation process, is the best way to create equanimity, level-headed, even-tempered, calm, quiet, safe, relaxed, tranquil level of being where mentally, emotionally, and physically we are at our best. But there are many other things that we can do. Lifestyle things, like get enough sleep. Be consistent in your sleep patterns and allow yourself sufficient sleep. Don't multitask. I know there is an illusion that you can get more done, that you're more productive if you multitask. It's only that, an illusion. It's not true. And there are countless studies that you don't have to take my word for it. You can Google it, DuckDuckGo it, search it, and you can find these studies for yourself. Multitasking creates stress and anxiety and destroys performance, totally degrades and debilitates your performance. So slow down, do things in bite-sized pieces. Do one thing at a time. Do it well. And even if it seems like you've slowed down and are less productive, consider all the time that you will save as a result of the mistakes that will not be made and the oversights that will not happen as a result of you dividing your attention. You'll become so much more efficient in the quality of your work, whatever it is. Could be your employment, could be the way you parent, it could be any one of your hobbies or activities. Slow down, do things one at a time in bite-sized pieces. Breathe. It's another great stress reducer. Just breathe consciously, deliberately. Slow, deep breaths, a sigh of relief every once in a while. Just, Calgon, take me away. Right? You don't have 5 minutes or 10 minutes to meditate. A great meditation teacher once said, if you have time to breathe, you have time to meditate. Just a couple slow, deep breaths really help a lot. Eating properly. Good, wholesome food. Now, that means a little more time in the kitchen. It means a little more time at the grocery store. It means less restaurant food, and certainly less fast food. I have few regrets in my life, fortunately. We all have some. But one of my big regrets is in the middle of my life, like I'll say 30 to 50 in those years, I was so stressed and so busy, always running here and there, trying to jam in so much stuff into my life that I relied on fast food a lot. And it just had a devastating impact on my health and consequently my well-being. And next lifetime, no much less fast food. Fast food is yummy. Poison is yummy. No question about it. Lots of fat, lots of grease, very flavorful, very yummy. No question that poison is delicious. But all things in moderation, all right? Good food, good sleep. Play with children. Get down on the floor. Play with kids. If you don't have kids, play with other people's kids. If you don't have access to kids, watch them play. Especially little kids, young kids. I think pets also, the very fact that we call the animals that we domesticate pets, means that we like to touch them, we like to pet them, we like to stroke them. And the animals appear to like that too. We all benefit from the touch. And when we talk about stress and distress, there is such a thing as touch deprivation. We need to touch each other, again, to help break this delusion of separation. Just touching someone on the shoulder or the elbow even has such a calming, unifying, harmonizing aspect to it. Imagine if a doctor reached out, you're sick, you're ill, you're concerned, you don't know how serious it is or what's going to happen next. Imagine if a doctor just touched you on the shoulder or the elbow in a very non-intrusive way and said, don't worry, everything's going to be okay. You'll be fine. Or we got this. We're going to take care of you. How about that? Just touched her on the shoulder, made eye contact, and said, we're going to take care of you. Don't worry. Wow! Isn't that a whole lot better than standing on the other side of the room? I had pneumonia once. I was in the hospital. The doctor that I was seeing it wasn't my doctor, it was a hospitaler. He wouldn't even come into the damn room. He would stand in the doorway and talk at me from across the room. Just a little touch. Do this with the kids. Do this with the animals. We pet them. The animal likes it. We like it. It has a very calming effect. All right? Surround yourself with nature, bringing flowers and green plants into the house has a calming effect on you. You're connecting, you're touching them, you're watering them, you're caring for them. That benefits not only the plant, it benefits you, right? You have a plant nature. I already spoke about the animal nature. We also have a plant nature. 50% of our DNA is found in mushrooms. We're very closely related to plants. And of course, a walk in the woods. You say, well, I don't have any woods nearby. Oh, a walk in the desert. A walk in the city park. Or plant a tree in your yard. You got room for one more tree in your yard? Could you do that? Or again, if you're in an apartment or a condo, bring the stuff indoors. Hang some plants. Bring some flowers in. Let's see. What have I left out? Oh, we'll go to Q&A in just a minute here. Melinda's our co-host again this week, so all you got to do is raise your hand, use that little response box in the bottom of the Zoom window to raise your hand, or send a chat notice to Melinda, say, I have a comment, I have a question. Music is a stress reducer. I would say all kinds of music, but then hasten to add some kinds of music more than others. Baroque classical music is magical. Certain concertos and classical forms of classical music are transcendent. They'll just carry you away. There's an exercise that I've done with my private clients over the years where I would play 3 minutes of classical music and say to my client, I want you to listen to this music for 3 minutes. That's the only thing I would say is listen to this music. Then I'd play 3 minutes of classical music. Often they would close their eyes. I didn't tell them they should or could, but often they would. So they're clearly listening to the music. And then after 3 minutes, I would say, so what were you thinking about during that music? Every single client I ever had that I ever did this with would then tell me what they were thinking during the music. At which time I would say, because it was sort of my trap, I didn't tell you to think. I told you to listen to the music. So I'm going to play 3 more minutes, and this time, don't think. Just listen to the music. Now, the tricky thing here is if you try not to think, if you make an effort out of not thinking, you're going to think about how not to think. It's like giving up desire. Then you have the desire to give up the desire, and the desire to give up the desire. I mean, it's the dog chasing its tail. How do you do that? You turn your attention from thoughts to feelings. And when you listen to the music, you gently focus your awareness on how the music makes you feel. And if the mind chatters in the background, just ignore it. Just keep turning your attention. If it distracts you with thoughts and ideas and fears, just keep turning your attention every time, again, repeatedly. It's like you're training an animal, right? Train the brain. Just gently, don't fight it, just turn your attention back to how does this music make me feel? Right? And if it's not classical music, just say popular music. This tune on the radio that you really like, or this tune, this classic rock tune that you've always liked. Next time you listen to it, ask yourself, what is it about this music that I really like. It's not what it makes you think that causes you to enjoy it. It's something below the shoulders. Maybe it makes you want to move. Maybe it makes you want to dance. Maybe it fills your heart. Maybe it reminds you of a wonderful memory. But allowing yourself to be swept away by music, carried away by music. Music is love. Music is awareness. Music is a stress reducer. Walking. I talked about walking in the woods. Any kind of walking is a stress reducer. And of course, beyond that, exercise, cardio, strength training, uh, yoga, Pilates, movement awareness, aerobics, what have you. Move it, use it. That'll help to reduce stress and anxiety. And again, beyond the physical benefits of that to your health and your performance are all the mental and emotional benefits of stress management, right? So just some of the ideas. Pets, plants, wholesome food, sleep, music. Oh, and last but not least, laughter and simple communication with friends. Remember to laugh. Um, Life is way too serious. Seek out comedy. Go to comedy clubs, listen to comedians, wherever, Instagram, wherever you go. Uh, you know, funny people isn't. Laughter heals. Laughter is the best medicine. Wasn't there that old feature in Reader's Digest? Laughter is the best medicine, and they always had a few good stories in every issue. Laughter heals because laughter is love, and it makes you feel good. So have a good sense of humor, laugh at yourself, and laugh at life, because as horrible and as much suffering and discontent and gross injustice as there is in the world, there's plenty to laugh about and plenty to sing about. And dancing, too. I didn't mention dancing. That goes with the music. All of these things are wonderful ways to reduce distress and manage stress overall. And your meditation. Remember your meditation, your daily meditation. Melinda,
Michael.
what say you, girl?
Well, there were a couple things in the meditation. And again, anybody just chime in here. When you said an offensive attack is defense, there's a defense underneath it. For some reason, that rang really true to me today. And the other thing, among many, is when you said gather up what you have learned and carry it with you. Those two statements, but especially that one, of course, is profound. But I was pulling out of a parking lot and I was right up against the car stopped at the red light, and I needed to get in the far left lane, and I looked and I looked and I looked again, and when I started to pull out, someone was just right there going very fast to nowhere, right? Because the light was red and the cars were there. We get that in Arizona. And I was just stunned because it's like he came out of nowhere. And his response was absolutely laying on, I was already going, there's nothing I do about it, laying on his horn. And, I wanted to just jump out of my skin. And, my first reaction was, I'm going to give it right back to him. Luckily, I was able to grab on to what I had learned and say, no, please don't do that. Please just give him a sorry wave. Thank him in your mind. He didn't hit you. Thank you. But it really wasn't until you said that I realized, he perceived what I did as an attack on him. So it just helps to have that level of understanding. So thanks for both of those pearls.
You're welcome. For me, the realization that my defensiveness was perceived as an offensive attack was a major breakthrough. I think it can be huge in changing the way that we disagree with each other and moderating the emotion, the building emotions, that start out with just, uh, Doreen calls them my snappy little retort. I didn't think it was such a snappy little retort, but to her it was. And that's her way of moderating, let's not get carried away with this. And it builds and builds and builds. And then, we're trying to protect ourselves, defend ourselves from what? From being hurt. But again, the disagreement itself causes that defensive language to be perceived as offensive, as an attack. And there really, in argumentation, there really is no defense. It's sort of like, the cowboy movie, Gary Cooper, A High Noon. You got two cowboys out in the street with handguns. And what's your defense? People talk about, I need a gun to defend myself. You can't defend yourself with a gun. You're not going to shoot the other guy's bullet out of the air. The gun is not a shield. It's a counterattack. So if people say, I need a gun to defend myself, what they're really saying is I need a gun to counterattack because I have no defense. And so it is in rhetoric. There's no defense against somebody saying something hurtful and insulting. So we usually resort unconsciously, ego jumps forward, to getting the upper hand by being insulting and aggressive and hurting them before they get a chance to hurt you. And then it's like, who's better at hurting the other one? And we completely forget that what we really wanted was understanding. We didn't really want agreement. We want understanding. If someone were to say to you in the midst of an argument, I don't agree with you at all. I still don't agree with you, but wait a minute. I think I understand what you're saying. And I'm pretty sure that I can see how you might feel that way. I'll acknowledge that. I can see how you'd feel that way. Now, my feeling is very different, but I'll tell you about that later if you're interested. But let me set that aside, my whole agenda, set that aside, and just work on helping you feel understood. Then I don't think it would matter that much whether I agreed with you or not, if I could say, yeah, I get it. I understand that that's the way you feel. But often the argument is so personal. To say, I understand how you feel if what you feel is about what a jerk I am, right? Or how insensitive and cruel I am. It's hard to say, well, I understand you could feel that way. But if you're down to the real meat of the argument and the ad hominem attacks have been set aside, what is the core of the disagreement here? It's much easier to acknowledge that understanding. And then we can escape that whole argumentation that ends up with people threatening to leave each other or kill each other. If you have guns in the home, that's when the guns come out and people end up dead. Or families break up and they divorce, and then the divorce attorney says, well, what were you arguing about? Or the therapist says, what was the argument about? And truth is, you can't really remember what you were arguing about. It's just, I just know it hurt.
Yeah, I think some of the fear in doing that is that the other side won't sort of. I think it's hard to be angry at someone who just doesn't take the bait, as it were, and just remains calm and kind of non-opinionated in the middle, which is hard to do. But I think the fear, I have two people in my life that are blood related, and the one is always trying to send missives and arguments to persuade politically. And it happens to be a very far right agenda that is offensive to this other person. So it's been very hard for them to take that advice and say to the other person, what is the deeper meaning? What are you trying to get at here? I don't try to convince you of my beliefs. What is the insistence? And it's been a real problem. I think I'm just wondering how your approach the other person, letting them extrapolate on those poisonous views is not an option, and getting underneath the emotional desire to what I know it's impossible to answer, but what is behind that desire that you don't want to feed it? I mean, it's kind of a fine line. You don't want to feed it, and on the other hand, you don't want to go up against it, because that you're never going to win. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's defensiveness. When a right winger tries to convince a liberal, or vice versa, what they're really doing is defending their own position. It may appear that they're trying to persuade the other to come on board, or to enlighten them because they're ignorant. The right winger is totally convinced that liberals are ignorant. And liberals know for sure that the right wingers are ignorant. And so a lot of the argument is, I'm going to educate you or indoctrinate you. But what it really is, I think, what it really is in the vast majority of cases is a defense. It's not understood as a defense. But my desire to explain myself to you is not to get you to agree with me. It's just me listening to myself argue for a defensive argument for my case. Because if you were really that sure of yourself, politically or socially or anything else, if you were really that sure of your position, you wouldn't argue at all. There'd be no argument. You just, if somebody asked,
What might you say? Sorry, go ahead.
If somebody asked you, you could, and you were that confident, you could answer. But if they wanted to argue, I have no need to argue this with you. The libraries are open. The Google is available if you want to figure it out. I'm not doing your homework for you. I don't need you to get it. Meaning, I'm not going to defend myself. I think that's the real agenda is, that uncle at Thanksgiving that won't shut up about politics. It looks like he's trying to get you all to agree with him, but it's to understand him. He's really insecure and defending himself.
Well, I think it just answered my next question, which would be, what would a person say? You sound unsure of yourself, but I've reversed that. It sounds like the person needs to just be aware of what's emanating from the screed, and if the understanding of the other side may be just as much as this person can hope to accomplish in that scene.
I'll tell you how Buddha handled it. He repeatedly, in situations like this, when somebody disagreed with him, he would say, "That may be." 3 words. That may be, and walk away.
Michael, is that may be is really another way of saying I understand you. I understand.
I think so. Yeah, that feels right, Rose. Yeah.
Because I didn't mean to interrupt, but I have a question to do with that.
Go right ahead. Sure, go right ahead.
Well, it strikes me that people in this country have an immense problem. That is understanding each other culturally. I mean, the mix has never happened before. And when it has happened, it's been a bloody nuisance to everyone, always, because they don't understand the cultural signal from somebody else who grew up somewhere far away. And so at the bottom, as you always say, fear. Fear is defense. Fear is not understanding. Fear is unhappiness and anger at the other. And therefore, here we are in this dreadful mix. What to do? And that's what we're all wondering, because it's gone to the bottom now. Guns solve your anger. But that seems to me, we all have to try to understand. We have been trying to understand the far right, haven't we? But it's really difficult when you meet someone. The anger can be so intense that it repels, and therefore to say I understand becomes much more difficult, at least for me. And yet I want to be able to do that, to say I understand. It makes me frightened when somebody, comes back who's on the far right. Very seldom do I meet anyone like that, but it's always angry. And who has done this to everyone in this country? Who's done it? It's the fact that so many people are poor. It's the fact that, socialists are called communists. It's all ignorance. And I can't see a way to get out of it unless you say to people like that, we understand you. We understand why Jim Jordan wants to run for speaker when he's got no experience whatsoever. How can I say I understand that? When I need to do that, I need to understand how fearful he is as a person in the House of Representatives, and yet I just feel repelled. So look, I know the tools, you've done a marvelous job today, but it's incredibly hard now.
There's two stages to what you're talking about. One is understanding the other, understanding
Right.
the source of your anxiety and fear and stress, which is what you're talking about. How do I understand angry people that stockpile guns or who are blatantly racist or so self-centered that they appear not to have a conscience? And the answer is, let me put it to you this way. When you hear people saying, for example, love is the answer, all we need is love. The problem with that word, instead of consciousness or awareness, is that we think of it as emotions. All we need to do is be happy, happy, joy, joy, sing kumbaya. That's not what love means. Love is understanding, as you've indicated. It's understanding, it's knowing, right? Understanding is a quality of knowing. That's awareness. So what you're talking about is, how do I understand the adversary or the opponent? And the answer is by first and foremostly understanding yourself. We can't understand ourselves by judging other people because they're not us. But that's what gets triggered when we're frightened, when we're threatened. And I feel that fear. The news scares the bejesus out of me sometimes. What we have to do is calm that reactive fight or flight response, is what it really is, with meditation, with contemplation, and with deep reflection on self. The temptation is to understand the other. The real need is to understand ourselves. What is the nature of that fear? If love is understanding, then fear is not understanding. What is it about me that I do not understand? And it seems like the wrong direction. Wait a minute, the threat's out there. I need to understand out there. Well, you'll find that in here. So turn within and know thyself. The Greek, the inscribed over the oracle to Apollo 4,000 years ago in Delphi, know thyself. And in Chinese philosophy, Confucius says, anytime somebody irritates you, turn within and use that to understand yourself. I've had so many clients look at me with a slack jaw and amazement in their eyes when I say, the problem you're having with your spouse or your kids or your parents or the guy at work or whatever, make it about you and you'll understand it and then be able to manage this much more effectively. But it's not advice people want to hear. The reaction I often get is, oh, so you're blaming me? And it's like, no, it's not about self-blame. It's not blame yourself. But it's also about not blaming others. If you want to understand their fear and their ignorance, and they're resorting to guns or hostile attacks and threats and such, find that understanding in yourself, explore your own nature, and only then could we possibly empathize and understand. And then what to do about it is up to you, depending on the situation. But that's what's so darn counterintuitive about this, and speaks directly to the religious admonitions we find in all philosophies and religions about not judging others. It's just irrelevant, and you can't. And there's no merit in it. There's no value. Know thyself is odd as that may sound. Wait a minute, I'm not a threat to myself. No, but that's the reason you're here. That's the whole purpose of life. Why would the one create the many but to know itself? If the one is whole, it can't see itself. It can't appreciate itself unless it creates the multiplicity. And, oh, now I understand myself. I'm Rose, I'm Michael, I'm Melinda, I'm Joe, I'm Patty. I'm this fear, I'm this love, I'm this wisdom, I'm this ignorance, I'm all of this in all of these situations. That's the whole point.
But how can you see the madness of what's being created in this country, this inability to accept facts?
As a reflection of the madness in ourselves.
Oh, wow. I don't agree.
That's okay. You don't have to agree.
I
All of us
don't see reality like that. I can't see that the madness in myself is a result of the madness that we see in this country today.
No, it's not. It's the other way around.
Explain.
It's the animal nature in ourselves. It's the fear and the ignorance in ourselves that's reflected in the world, that you recognize in others much more easily than recognize in ourselves. It's so much easier to see in others. Find it in, if I'll speak in first person. When I find the fear in me, I see the fear in those who brandish weapons and threaten others.
Yeah.
It helps
Yeah,
me
I mean,
to...
we'd all like to kill someone who, has hurt us, right? That's what you mean.
There is that animal impulse. You just want to strangle them. Let me go to see if we have any others because
Yeah.
we're already a little over. Thank you, Rose. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Michael.
I love that she says, I don't agree.
Kudos. Not right now, Michael. I guess my conclusion is what you just said has to be because we are a part of the whole. It's like the John Donne poem, no man, if a clod be washed away to sea. It's that. And also the good news about looking inside us is that's a lot of times I say to myself, there's no one else I have any influence over directly, so I might as well work on myself. It helps to quell some of that frustration, because what Rosemary was talking about is very frustrating and very hard. And I thank her
Yep.
for that. I thank you both for that discussion there.
You've never heard any great wisdom. Know other people, figure them out. The guru on the mountain. What's the secret of life? Understand other people, judge them, control them, get guns, intimidate them.
There you go.
It's always know thyself, which is directly speaks to the purpose of existence. If not you, who? Every one of us is unique, just as every snowflake and every grain of sand is unique. Perhaps that's for a reason, and perhaps that uniqueness needs to be realized, made real. Why would this universe bend over backward to make every snowflake, even, much less every human being and every animal, unique in some way, though we have so much in common, even our DNA, so much in common. But nevertheless, at the end of the day, each of us is in form unique. That's the paradox of the one and the many, all from the same source, and yet unique individuals, unique in our individuality. So if we don't devote ourselves to understanding that uniqueness, who's going to do it? See? The idea of, well, I'll figure out you and you figure out me. Take a marriage. Well, I'll just change them. Right? Is he trainable? Is she trainable? I'll just fix them. I'll just mold them and shape them and educate them, and then they'll be who I need them to be. It never works. Know thyself. But the ego stands in the way. Ego likes us the way we are. That's what the ego is. And that's what we hold on to. We talked about attachments recently. We're holding on for dear life to that. Instead, shed it. Get humble. Open yourself to this curiosity of who you are, and risk that instead of finding some inadequacy or some weakness, you're going to find something magnificent and wonderful. Look around you. Look at nature. It's all so beautiful. Why would you not also be beautiful and magnificent and wonderful at the deepest core of your being? And then maybe we could begin to see that in other people. And when Christ talks about loving your enemy, it means understanding your enemy and your contribution to his fear, such that maybe if we didn't contribute to their fear, they wouldn't be our enemy.
Yeah, but listen, what to do after you've understood yourself with the world burning all around us? I suggest we pay them. I pay anyone money that I want to help. I pay them. The government pays. It's long not paid. And that is the source of fear to almost everybody. So I'll leave you with that.
Okay. Thank you, Rose. Thanks to everybody else. So we had no other questions no other comments beside Rose, Melinda?
Correct.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey, you folks, I love that you're lurking. I love that you're listening. I love that you're here. I love that you come back. But this isn't school. Nobody's going to think your question is stupid. So let's think about participating more. My goal has always been for this to be like the old radio shows, and some of you go back to the days on Los Angeles radio when I was doing talk shows without guests. Just, it was so fun. It was so wonderful. And people would call knowing that tens of thousands of people were listening, and it was no big deal. It was just a chat with you and me. And here you've got 20 or 25 people listening. It's no big deal. Love to get more comments and questions from you all. Thank you in any event for being here. I'd like to invite you to unmute at this point and say your goodbyes and thank yous to each other. Namaste, aloha, salam. See you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you
everyone.
very much. Have a great week, or be a great week.
Namaste.
Thank you.
you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks everyone else. Bye.